Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are very excited to be with Professor Jensen from BYU. We are very excited to learn more about the BYU program, as well as hear from his experience with a lot of Brazilians already going through the LLM program. So thank you so much once again, Professor Jensen, for your time and willingness to join me in this project and share with us more about the program this evening. Thank you so much, and the presentation is on you. Thank you so much again.
Well, I'm very happy. I'm very happy to be here. Obviously, we love having Brazilians in our. We love having lots of people in our LLM program, but Brazilians have been a disproportionately large number of our LLM participants in the last 5 years, and that's been a good thing. We have loved having folks from Brazil here, and I see that we have an alum or two here on the presentation with us. So Vinny, you're welcome to speak up anytime if you have something you want to add. But let me start by sharing with you some slides just to kind of give an overview of what the program is about. I think that will probably be helpful. So let me do that. So you should be seeing my screen now, I'm hoping. It says BYU's LLM program.
Yep, definitely.
Good.
It's just not on full screen, but it's working just fine. Oh, now it's perfect.
Now.
It is. Perfect.
Okay. All right. So the first thing I thought I'd do is just talk a little bit about the numbers. We've been offering this LLM program for about 22 years. In that time, we have over 200 graduates, and we've received LLM students from 47 countries, and with a couple of countries, or with one country new as of this year. So we're very much interested in looking at the world globally and bringing people from all over the world to be part of the program. This is just kind of a snapshot view of the countries from which we have brought people to the LLM program. You'll note that we need to do a little more work in Africa. We're not doing as well there as we should be, but we'll change that. Let me give you a little bit more by the numbers. We normally try to accept between 10 and 15 students a year. During COVID, that's been a little bit harder because the availability of people to get to the United States based on visa requirements has been more difficult than maybe in other years. $45,000 is roughly the cost of being here, to include tuition, which is about $14,000 a year for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and about $28,000 for members who are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And then rent in Provo, Utah, or the surrounding areas, and food and transportation and your flights to the United States and back, and incidentals, all of that. We give a rough figure of about $45,000. So if you're planning on coming, that's the number you ought to be thinking about, is $45,000, and that's not for the whole year. That's for the whole academic year. So that's August through the end of April. We currently do not offer scholarships to the LLM program. We have no scholarship money allocated to the LLM program, which is difficult, especially as you saw the countries we're trying to bring people from. Those countries are not countries that where most people can afford to pay $45,000. I mean, there aren't many countries in the world where people can afford to pay $45,000. Even in the United States, most people who go to law school get loans to be able to afford that. So it's a lot of money. We don't have any scholarships. We have in recent past had some really generous donors. The Sterling Foundation and the Sorensen Foundation, the Sorensen Legacy Foundation, these have been some really generous donors that have allowed us to pay some money for fellows to come who will do work for the International Center for Law and Religion Studies, and we've been able to bring some people under that funding, but that is not a guaranteed funding. That's not an endowment. It is simply generous donors who've been willing to help from time to time. So I can't say to you that There is money available. I can say that I am trying to get money available to help and assist with that. But I think for those who are really committed to come to BYU's LLM program, they're going to have to recognize that there will probably be a significant financial cost to them to do so. Let me give you a little bit about our philosophy. In the United States, you know, I think you've had, Klaus, you've had some other folks who run LLM programs on your show before, which is great. I've watched some of those. But for many law schools, the LLM program is about the money. It's a way that they can fund some of their programs because they bring LLM folks from countries where they're either government sponsored or they have sufficient funds to be able to pay for themselves. And so that's a way for those law schools to make money. That is absolutely not what we are doing. We do not understand our LLM program to be at all about the money. In fact, the LLM program is consistently for us a money outflow, not a money inflow. So that philosophy impacts the way we present the LLM program. One other piece of philosophy that I think is really important, and that is that this LLM program is not the place to come if you want to stay in the United States. We do not prepare you to take a bar exam in the United States. You can't take the Utah bar if you come from Brazil, for example, because the Utah bar does not allow you to take the bar exam if you come from a civil code country, which Brazil is. So if you're thinking about coming and staying in the US, this is not the law school for you. There are lots of other great law schools out there, but this is not the law school for you. And if we on the admissions committee have the sense that that's why you're coming, you probably don't stand a very good chance of getting into our LLM program. We are focused on people who want to go back to Brazil, who want to go back to Sierra Leone, who want to go back to Vietnam, to all these places that are sending LLM students, because we feel like our job as a global law school is to prepare people to make their own countries, their own professions, the church in their own area, to make their own communities, to make their own government situations better. And we are building, we want to build a lifelong relationship with our graduates that will allow us to be a resource to you for years to come in your own home community, and building the JRCLS society there, things like that, where we can build a relationship that will last for a long time. So that's our philosophy. That's really what our LLM program is all about. We're also committed to the optional practical training option. If you come to the United States on an F1 visa as a student, and you stay for a full academic year, you have the option to stay for an additional year in a status that allows you to participate in an optional practical training program. This is a program where we will try and figure out what kind of law you're especially interested in. We will find a law firm somewhere in the United States, most of the time here in Utah, where you can work for a law firm that practices in that area, get some practical training in how US law firms work, maybe build some relationships that might last for after you return, and then go back to your home country and maybe maintain that relationship. And I've had that experience. We tell, in conjunction with our prior philosophy about this is not about having you stay in the US, we tell those law firms, do not offer them a job. That's not what this is about. This is about giving them practical training. And so that's really what this OPT is about. It's literally about practical training and preparation for you to return to your home country and do good legal work there. So that is basically all I had on my slides, except that I can also talk a little bit about the requirements of the course. It's really, we try and leave the course as open as possible for the students to pick what they want to do. So we have 3 required courses, and that is all. There are 24 credit hours required to graduate from BYU law with an LLM degree. Basically, 8 or 9 of those we require you to take. One is a class that I teach. It's the Introduction to American Law. So it's a class that that will introduce you to the concepts of U.S. and American law, the common law system, etc. It's a 3 credit hour class. and it will prepare you to participate in the law classes. It will give you a foundation that will help you as you enter law classes. Part of that course includes mandatory training that starts 2 weeks before the law school does. So, for example, this year, the law school, the first day of classes was August 23rd, but the LLM students needed to be here by August 9th because we had 2 weeks of mandatory training that included much of the content of the Introduction to American Law course. The next course that we require you to take is an Introduction to Legal Research and Writing in the U.S. legal system. Obviously, every country has their own method of doing legal research and writing, including the U.S., and we use this course to introduce you to our methods. You will be much more effective when you go to your OPT if you understand how we do legal research and writing. And then the last course we require you to take is one of the common law general courses. These are courses that we offer to our first year students. So you'll be taking this class with first year students. And that includes classes such as US criminal law, torts, contract law, so very basic US common law courses, and property law. You can pick from the one you want to take. We don't require you to take any one, but we require you to take one. So you can pick which one you want to take as long as you pick one. After that, all the courses that we offer are available to you. You can take whatever courses you want, and hopefully there'll be courses that fit to your current legal specialization or the legal specialization you would like to move into as you return back to Brazil. There is also a thesis option that we offer. It is you can do anywhere from 3 to 6 credit hours of thesis. Basically, you have to write 10 pages of a thesis quality document per credit hour. So it's either a 30, 40, 50, or 60 page document. We've had some really great theses in the past. We have a committee that will review your thesis. Basically you'll have to defend your thesis to the committee. And I think it's a pretty rigorous process, but I know especially for those in Brazil who want to get credit for getting a master's degree, having a thesis and defending that thesis is a key point. And oh, by the way, I think the minimum you have to do is 26 hours for that. So you would have to do a couple of extra hours than your other LLM compadres if you wanted to get a master's degree that will be recognized in Brazil. So I think that's about all I have in terms of talking at you. I am very happy to answer any questions you have about BYU's LLM program, about education in America more generally. Again, Vinny Veras is on here, and he did the program a couple years ago, so he also, I'm sure, would be very happy to answer any questions you have from a student perspective. So Klaus, over to you.
Thank you so much, Professor, for this wonderful presentation to get us started this evening. And I would like to thank everybody for spending time with us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us in this meeting. And please feel free to send any questions you have over through the chat session, or even if you want to speak, you can just raise your hand and I'll be able to unmute you. So we really appreciate any kind of participation. But maybe to get our evening started, something that we always mention is about the admissions requirements. And maybe if you could start answering to us, how does admissions normally work? Do you do it only through LSAC? Do you accept applications, through email as well, or something like that? So if you could explain to us a little more detail about the application process.
Yeah, that's a great question, and this again is something where Vinny can be helpful. So when Vinny applied a couple of years ago, we were using LSAC, and as I think Vinny will attest, that was pretty painful. The LSAC process is a painstaking, expensive, and arduous experience. We have since left that system. We are now using the graduate school admission system here at BYU. So if you want to apply to BYU, do not go through the LSAC. Now, that's a little bit rough for you if you're applying to multiple LLM programs, because LSAC is the methodology which most LLM programs use, and I'm sorry about that. But we just found that they weren't very helpful. They took too long. And so we're using now the BYU Graduate Studies admission process. And if you go to our LLM page, the link on that page should take you to the BYU graduate school admissions process, where you can then hit a pull down menu and pull up LLM, and then you proceed there. The biggest difficulty in that process is the credentialing. So if you're thinking about doing this, you may want to start now getting your official documents from the university where you got your law degree, and get ready to send those to us so we can credential them. It does take some time. Our admissions open on the 1st of November and close on the 31st of January. So there is a 3-month window for you to apply, but I encourage you to apply early if you can, just because that credentialing process is pretty painstaking.
Got it. And like the LSAC, would you need to send your documents through paper on the mail, or can you just do them online?
So the graduate school, I think they have in the past accepted them online, but usually people get, depending on the credentialing process, they sometimes will get it from the credentialing service, as opposed to if we're gonna get the originals done, then I think if you're gonna have us do it, then I think you have to send us the original documents.
Okay, all right. Well, we have a question here from Vinicius Veras, and he said that BYU through LSEC did not require official translation, and if that is still the same.
That is still the same, as I understand the process, because the people they send to credential it will be able to handle that translation process. Although I do know a couple of students who applied and got accepted this year did get them translated. So I don't know if that was because they were required to, or because they just did.
Well, something that's very nice about doing an LOM as well is that, it's shorter, as you mentioned, but also that, and of course, there are different reasons why you would take a JD and an LOM, but just in general terms, it's very interesting that you don't need to take the LSAC for the LSAT, right? So the LSAT, the test. So that's something that is really nice about it. Vinicius just said that the translation is required, but it doesn't need to be an official one, like a public translator, right?
I know that one of our previous graduates, Thiago Camargo, has done some translation for those school records, and they have been accepted in that way. So I'm sure Vinny is right. One of the points that you were just talking about, no LSAT. The difficulty, though, for most applicants is the TOEFL. We require a minimum TOEFL of 90, and we actually prefer 100 on the TOEFL score. So 100 is what you should be shooting for. If you get a 100, then the TOEFL is not an issue. If you get below 100, it's possible for us to waive the TOEFL, your TOEFL score, but we're not going to waive it if you're under 90. We conduct in-person over Zoom. So I shouldn't say in person, I guess. We conduct over Zoom interviews of all of our applicants to give us a chance to assess your English as well. And that's a really key point. I think that as most of our graduates would say to you, the one of the biggest factors for how enjoyable the program is, or how much success you have here, is your English capability. It's just the program just goes better if your English capability is really good.
Yes, most definitely. Often we get questions about the TOEFL scores and how much English you need to understand, and you're definitely right. The experience will be a lot better if you can have that level of English where you're very comfortable and don't need to worry about translating every sentence and everything else. It needs to be like a after graduation level, so it's more than you would need for a bachelor's, for example, right?
Definitely so. And we have had a number of applicants who have applied multiple years, and we have said to them, in the first or second year, you seem like a really interesting person. There are lots of things about you that we really like, that we would love to have you in our program, but your English score just isn't good enough. So take a year and do your best to get your English score up. There is at BYU an English Learning Center, and you can Google the English Learning Center at BYU. We have had a number of graduates who have come to BYU early and done the English Learning Center, and then been able to get higher on the TOEFL, high enough on the TOEFL. I would recommend, if you're thinking about that, that you plan on no less than 2 full semesters at the ELC to make it worth your time. We find that to be the most effective if you come, say, in January and do the winter semester and then do spring and summer terms, and then which end in August, and then you enroll in law school in August. And we have done for people in the past, not many, this is not our preference, but we have done conditional acceptances based on your ability to come to the ELC and raise your English score sufficiently to meet our minimums. So that's doable. Vinny just put the ELC website. Well done, Vinny. See, this is a typical great LLM graduate. He's all over it. Thank you, Vinny. Yeah, that's an opportunity that also might be of interest. But then again, you're increasing your cost, right? Because now the ELC tuition is less than half that of BYU law school, but you still have to rent someplace and eat and all the other things that are involved. So it just increases the expense.
Yeah, that's definitely right. Well, since you brought up the thing about the English proficiency exams, do you only accept the TOEFL, or do you accept Ielts or Duolingo English tests, etc.?
So we do accept the IELTS score. We have not accepted Duolingo in the past, though we have used it as a comparative value. But IELTS and TOEFL are the preferred language scores, or language tests, I should say. And if you're doing the IELTS, you're looking at a band of 6.5-ish, 7 to be comparable with what we're looking for on the TOEFL.
All right, very nice, very nice. Well, Professor, you spoke about the 24 options or something like that. Could you mention some of the courses that students could take once they get into the LLM program and go, like, after the mandatory courses?
Yeah, sure. So again, you've got the mandatory courses, which are 8 or 9 credit hours, and then the rest of it, maybe the thesis. But we really offer a pretty broad array of courses, which you can pull down off the BYU Law School website. We have some great specialists here at the law school in intellectual property law. We have a lot of great international law, international human rights, international taxation. We have some students or some professors who are really well recognized in business law, in constitutional law. So all of these areas and more, we offer classes in, and we really hope that what you'll do is you'll look at the array of classes and pick a set of classes that will be perfect for you, to prepare you to be even more recognized in your field, to be even more capable in your field when you return. And then again, as I mentioned about the OPT, of course, we're going to try and put you in an OPT that satisfies that. One area I think is worth remarking that, again, Vinny can probably talk to as well, is religious freedom. BYU has International Center for Law and Religious Freedom that is, I think, the best in the world, certainly among the best 2 or 3 in the world. And if religious freedom is one area of your interest, we have lots to offer in that way, not just in classes, but also we have a religious freedom conference here every year. We have the center that does work that you can get involved with and do work for the center and actually travel with the center. Another one of our grads in Vinny's year did some travel with the center to help with a conference. So all of those things are options. Looks like Vinny's got his hand up. Vinny, you want to speak up on that?
Yes, I do. So one thing that I loved about this opportunity to study at BYU Law, it was this opportunity that we have to work with the organizations that the university is involved with. So I was closely related to the religious freedom topic. I was already talking about it in Brazil, and then coming here and keep talking about it and keep learning about it, it was an amazing opportunity. So with the Center for Law and Religious Freedom Studies, I went to California with some judges from all over the world. We had training about case management and also alternative dispute resolutions. And this training was for them, the judges, and also for them to take to their countries and propose, look, we learned a new way to manage cases. And another opportunity that I had, I went to Washington, D.C., and I have met several religious leaders and NGOs leaders, and they are doing amazing work to make the world a better place. So we learn and develop a lot of leadership by knowing these people. I wouldn't say it's so we always think about the networking and getting a job and everything, but I think the amazing thing about this is not only the networking thing, but it is learning from these opportunities and people we meet during the program.
Thanks, Vinny. That's a great point. Great endorsement, actually. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Another question that just came to my mind, often law schools and the other ones we had the opportunity to talk with, they were saying how they are already open after, the COVID pandemic and everything. So are you already in school? Are you having in-person classes this semester?
Yes, we are. We are masked, but we are in person. And if you've been following this, Utah is not a great state to be in with respect to the Delta variant right now. But we hope that it will subside. We hope that people will take the necessary precautions. And as the law school, we are masked. We're not maintaining social distancing in our classrooms. So we're back to full capacity in classrooms, but we are masked all the time.
Yeah, thank you. And also another question, something that I've heard from other law schools is that they will they could allow you to like sample a class or something like that. Could people do that at BYU? Could you, for example, schedule a trip to Utah to make sure this is the law school you want to go to and then make a visit, tour the campus? Is that something that can be done?
Absolutely. We do have people who do that from time to time. However, let me suggest to you this instead. Save your money. Let me know. I will collect a recorded class from that class instead and let you watch it. And then, if you've got enough money to come here twice, great, do it. But if not, and if you're not here for some other reason, let me know. I'm happy to get a recording of a class. If you look through the catalog of classes that we teach on the website and you think, oh, I'd really like to see what business associations is like, let me know and I'll coordinate with the professor and we'll record the class one day and then I'll send you a copy or give you access to that recording so that you can get a sense of what those classes are like. It's super easy if you want to do any of the classes I teach because then it's easy to coordinate. I just will send you the link. But if it's another professor's class, I'm also happy to arrange that as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that as well. Well, moving on into the details of law school and everything else. So you mentioned about like all these international students that come into the law school, especially for the LLM, which is probably the most common. Something that I was curious about also is the classes that are offered. Do you have them with LLMs and JDs together, or do you have separate classes for each?
So there are two classes that are just for LLM students. One is the class I teach, the Introduction to American Law, and the other is the Introduction to Legal Research and Writing. That is it. All the JD students take that as well, but we've tailored that course for the LLMs. So all the LLMs will take that class together. The rest of the classes you're with the JD students, which is, it's great for us and it's great for you. One of the reasons we love this LLM program is because you come to us with such experience and a different background, and having you amongst our student body is a real blessing for us. We love your interaction with our students. We love the things you do. Vinny can tell you, we routinely have the LLMs put on a presentation for the rest of the student body that's always very well attended, talking about their background, their perspective on law from their country. this is a great thing for us. And then we think it's great for you as well, because again, you're building relationships and friendships that should last even after you return to your home country. You'll still maintain relationships with those students, the American students that you interacted with, and hopefully that will help you not only personally but professionally.
Fantastic. Well, you mentioned about the opportunities that students could have to work with the Religious Center and the Religious Freedom Center and other opportunities. I'm sure that anyone that goes to an LLM will have not a lot of free time, right? You have plenty to do. Yet, I was wondering if you have any other extracurricular opportunities, such as, I don't know, a journal or something that you guys have that are accessible for LLM students as well.
So the journals are harder because the most law schools select the journal staff in the spring that will do the journals the upcoming year. So that's not as good, but that's not as much of an option. But we do have, for example, the trial advocacy teams. We have moot court teams, all of which are open to LLMs. We also try and do some special activities with the LLMs. For example, we'll get tickets. We didn't do this the last couple of years because of COVID, but we'll get tickets to a BYU football game and we'll all go to that. We'll go to a BYU basketball game. We usually can get tickets to general conference, so we'll go to general conference. So there are some things that are particular to LLMs when life is normal that we do that are great opportunities as well, and at least give you a piece of culture, a piece of Utah culture.
Fantastic. Well, as probably some of the students have already gone through this and are looking into different profiles of law schools, I was also wondering if there is anything that makes BYU Law a little more family friendly. You know, when you think about going through an LM as somebody who's not married and doesn't have kids, and then the other the other parcel of people, the other amount of people that will want to have this experience, but they are married and have children, and they still can do it, right? So I was wondering if there is any benefits at BYU for somebody who's married, who has kids.
Yeah, well, this again, Vinny can probably talk more to this than me, as they not only brought kids but had a child while they were here. So he can probably answer this question as well. But I mean, there is a spouses association here at the law school that is very active, and of course, if you bring your spouse is very welcome to take part in that. The local schools are very accustomed to having school-age children come in, even if only for a year, and we'll hope that you come early enough that we can get your kids registered and into school. So in that way, I think that goes pretty well. We have a current. Well, last year she was here from last year, and she brought her daughter, who we got in school, and her daughter now speaks literally flawless English. I mean, she just, being around kids her age all the time, she speaks flawless English. So, and she's loving it, right? She's loving being here. So, I mean, I think it is generally a good experience for your family members if they're willing to get involved and do stuff as well. I don't know, Vinny, you want to unmute and add to that?
Yes, I'm sorry, the kids are having fun, let's say. So it's a very good environment. You mentioned the associations, so of the BYU Law spouses. So that's very interesting, because when my wife got here, she was struggling a lot on finding something to do, and having this association was really cool, because they have people that knew how to speak Portuguese, Spanish, and my wife was able to socialize, so she wasn't at home all the time with our daughter and everything. Sorry about it. But yes, BYU is an amazing place for family. Besides the association, there's always something to do at the university. They have the museums, art galleries, and everything that you can take your families and your children to check, place that they can have fun and everything.
Yeah, that's great, Vinny. Thank you. A couple of other things I might mention. One particular to Vinny, we have a holiday in America called Halloween where people dress up in costumes. And one of my favorite memories of all time is Vinny and his family dressed up as the Addams Family. If you go to the, I think it's on a number of Facebook pages, that picture, they just, Vinny's wife has a real talent for that. They just looked the part completely. It was fantastic. One other thing I would say about family members is in Provo, in the past, so if you talk to people who are in the LM program 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, they will not reflect this. But in the recent years, BYU's public transportation system has developed quite extensively. And your BYU ID card acts as your bus pass. And that's true of family members as well. So your spouse, your kids who are old enough to need a bus pass, they can transit from here all around Provo, all the way up to Salt Lake, all around Salt Lake, even as far north as Ogden, which is a city north of Salt Lake, and around any Utah transportation methods, train, bus, whatever, you can do for free with your BYU ID. So that's another great benefit for your family members.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Also, Professor, you mentioned that schools, that the children could be registered in schools. And for those who don't know, as far as I'm concerned, the US has public schools, right? So
Right.
you don't need to pay for your kids to go. Is that correct?
That's correct. We just register you. That they do require some shots and things like that, but no money to go to school here. And the schools around Provo are, I think, really good schools. And again, they're used to having non-US students, and so they're quite welcoming and do a good job.
That's fantastic. Very, very good. Well, I'm really open to ask any questions if you guys who are watching wouldn't like to speak up. So if you want to send some questions here, if you want to use the chat, or even if you want just to raise your hand and unmute yourself, you're very welcome to do that. Once again, right? So once again, thank you so much for your willingness to join us this evening. Thank you, Professor Jensen, for your time. Let's see if somebody has any additional question here.
Yeah, I'm obviously welcome to talk as long as you have questions. I came down to Brazil and a few years ago and met some of you while I was down there, and I hope to return again. We really have loved our students from Brazil, so I hope everyone on this Zoom meeting is interested, and that I will eventually get your application and be able to get to meet you in person.
Fantastic. Well, should people mention in their application, is there a place where they can say where they heard about the LOM program and mention that it was in the webinar?
Well, they're welcome to do that. In the personal statement, I think would be a good place to bring that up. But we showing continued interest is always good, right? Even if we can't accept you 1 year, we can accept you maybe another year. We have a current student who applied several times before he was accepted. So don't give up after just one time. And let me just say something about funding. We often don't know how much money donors will give us, if any, each given year. So when you apply, there's no place in the application process to apply for a scholarship. You normally, once you apply, I will start to communicate with you, and you and I will get to know each other pretty well by the time the application process is done. But if you can only apply if you get funding, that's okay. We can accept you, and then if we have money for you, great. If not, then you don't have to show up. Obviously, you can instead wait for another year or see what else you can do. We do not defer admissions. So if you apply and get admitted and then end up not coming, you would have to go through the application process again. We don't defer admissions.
That's a very important piece of information as well. Yes, and as you mentioned a lot of it, it seems like you are always looking into having a very diverse class, right? So many different countries and everything. So I'm sure that people that are going together, they all might have something in common or something really different about each other, and you kind of admit them as a group, right? So it would make sense not to defer.
Yeah, and we do consider that when we're doing the application process. You guys will become best friends with your LLM classmates. So we try and have a group that will get along, that we think will get along well, and that represents a very diverse approach to law. So in your personal statement, talking about things that you think will interest us is very important. That will help us understand why you would be a great member of our class.
That's fantastic. Well, I saw some of you guys just opened your video. If you want to ask any questions, please feel free to do that. To apply for some BYU master course in law, do we need to know English?
So all of the BYU programs are taught, all the BYU resident programs are taught in English. So for any of the programs, including our LLM program, you would have to be proficient in English. And again, the TOEFL score you're trying to get to is a 100. We can waive the TOEFL as low as 90 if we need to, but we generally are looking for a TOEFL score of 100 or higher.
Let me tell you that's a very interesting point. It's a very high score compared to many of the other law schools we have talked with. So that's very interesting, and I really appreciate the high level you want to keep this. As you mentioned, it's not about the money, so this could be part of the reason why they would accept, 60 or something like that.
Right. That's right. We're anxious to, we're mostly concerned about your success, and we've just found that LM students are more successful at BYU if they have a TOEFL score at 100 or close to it.
Thank you so much. Is there any other question? I'd love to ask them if you'd like to send them through chat, or if you just want to unmute.
I have a question. Sorry, I don't understand, but how much is the cost, and you have other options of scholarships?
So the cost the tuition cost is about $14,000 a year, just for tuition for a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. For a non-member, it's twice that. And then, of course, there are living costs, paying your monthly rent in the apartment that you get, your utilities, eating food, other incidentals, whether you want to get a car or not. We estimate that you will need between $40,000 and $50,000, or we just say around $45,000 for your academic year. We do not offer scholarships. We do not have any endowments for LLM students, but we do have, or we have had in the past few years, some very generous donors who have given us money to help us bring LLM students here. And so but we don't often know about that money in advance. And so when you apply, there's no way for you to apply for a scholarship. You just have to apply for admission. And then if you get admitted, then we can see if we get any donations, and then we will determine how to allocate those donations. We take into account need, so need is a major factor in allocating those donations. But if you really are committed to the BYU LLM program, your safest bet is to start saving money or find some generous donor yourself who can help you get here. I apologize about that. I would love to be able to offer you lots of money, but of course, any money we get comes from the tithes of the church. And so we are very careful with how we spend that money. Looks like Vinny, any other questions, or does that answer your question?
No, you answer my question.
Okay, great. Vinny, it looks like you got your hand up. Do you want to add something to that?
Yes. So something about the scholarships. There are two ways to find scholarships. So one is within the university. So as Professor Jensen is just saying, they do not have money available. They do not have a way to get to promise scholarships, right? But yes, find donors, and depending on the donors availability of, not availability, but yeah, availability of money, and depending on that, it is possible to find scholarship. But you can always try to finding different organizations that fund educational training. So there are also organizations in Brazil or even in the US. They are not within universities, but they allocate a lot of donations and everything on education. So it's always worth a try to find organizations that are helping, that they have a purpose on education. So they do have some money available too.
Yeah, that's a great point, Vinny, because there are some options out there that are not connected to the university. And I include those in the idea of you finding your own donors, but there are out there. You know, if you can, I guess I would say wherever you can get money, that's good, because anything you can do. I know American education is outrageously expensive, and I am sorry about that, but I appreciate Vinny's comment and encourage you to do whatever you can.
Vinny has something else to say. Please go ahead.
Yes, I do. So something that I loved about BYU Law is that, so I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if you're a member, you will feel at home because you'll be the whole time with people that are from the same religion, people who believe in things that you believe in. Yes. So another thing about it is that BYU, it's religious friendly. So we do not, we're not, I'm saying we, and I'm not faculty, but BYU
You're part of us, Vinny. You're part of us.
But BYU is not trying to convert you to our religion, but they do accept people from other religions and beliefs. In my classroom, I had a Muslim and a Catholic, and I was able to learn a lot from their religion. Even some philosophic points that I was like, hey, this is interesting. So it's another thing that it's amazing. It's meeting people from other places, break a lot of misunderstandings that we have from other countries. For an example, I had two classmates, amazing lawyers in Africa. And in Brazil, I had a very different perspective from what Africa really is. So the cultural enrichment that you have by doing an LLM, it's amazing because you meet people from all over the world.
I should have just had Vinny do all the talking. He's a great advertisement for BYU LM program, right? I should have just turned it over to him.
Right? Yes, that's a very good idea. He's always been very nice and very supportive of this project. Yeah. I really appreciate it, Vinicius.
So Vinny, maybe you ought to put your email in the chat, Vinny, so that people can reach out to you separately if they would like. I will put my email in the chat as well so that you can reach out to me.
Well, Professor, maybe to wrap up this meeting, something that I also would like to mention, just to build upon what Vinicius just said, is that considering that BYU has been receiving people from so many countries over the past 22 years, right? It's quite obvious that BYU is very ready and knows how to do it well, of how to receive international students and how to help you and everything else. So you can feel safe to go to BYU as a school that will offer you all the support you need and offer you everything that you need as an international student because of this long track of experience with international folks from all over the world.
That is absolutely right. We have an international student and scholars office that is absolutely superb, and I know that Vinny would echo this. You show up to them initially because they have to adjust your I-20, and there's lots of administration that they do, but they always do it in a kind way and very helpful. And they're always willing to answer your questions. They really are professional in how they approach this. In fact, they come to us on the first day of our LLM orientation this year on August 9th. They came to us and just sat down with us for over an hour and just said, what are your questions? How can we help you? And this is the kind of service that they give. And I think you'll find if you get here, once you get here, that the whole university is that way. The church is a global church. The students who are here are a representation of that church. You're a part of that representation, and we want to be a global campus. So there are lots of people who speak Portuguese as you're walking down through the campus. You'll hear lots of people speaking Portuguese. You'll find lots of people in our community who speak Portuguese and who've been to Brazil and who love Brazil. And so I think that this will be a very friendly. It won't be home, but it'll be close. It'll be a very friendly place for you.
Fantastic. Just a final question, really. I also know that here in Brazil, it's very common for lawyers to also teach classes in universities and be very academic as well. It's quite common to do both careers at the same time. And in order to do that, what they normally would look for would be of more of like an academic degree, right? And you already mentioned that there is this possibility of doing the thesis. But other than the LLM programs, are there any other law programs, I don't know, such as an SJD or some other kind of program that BYU offers?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the answer, unfortunately, is no. So we do not offer an SJD or a JSD. There are a number of schools in the US who do. And to be honest, if that's where you would like to go, I would suggest that you go there for your LLM as well, just because many schools, such, for example, Yale, where I went, if you get your LLM, then the only thing you have to do additional to get your JSD or your SJD is write the dissertation. So if you're serious about that as an option, I would recommend that you find a school like that, because if you do your LLM here and then go there, you're going to have additional required classwork, which would just increase money, increase time. So if that's the way you want to go, I would look elsewhere, and feel free to reach out to me, because I can talk to you about the various SJD or JSD programs around the country and give you some ideas about where would be good.
That's fantastic. I know that that's not a very common degree for US professionals should do, right? So it's a very much like the LLM program. It's a very international people that would want to do that, but always interested in learning and seeing all the possibilities. That's very nice. Well, I believe that there are no other questions. Nobody else has said anything. So please, guys, feel free. This is the last call for questions. Once again, I appreciate your time to watch this meeting. And once again, thank you, Professor Jensen, for your availability and willingness to do this. You guys probably don't know, but we have been scheduling this through summer, so it's been a while since we first contacted each other about having this opportunity. So yeah, this guy's very busy.
Klaus was not the problem; it was me. So he was great and easy to work with.
Yeah, it was great, and it was definitely worth the wait, for sure. Well, Professor, I think we can go ahead and close the meeting. I appreciate your time once again. Thank you so much for also leaving your email there, and I hope that this webinar does turn into some good applications in future BYU students.
I hope so too. I would love to have I'd love to have all of you come to BYU. As I've said before, I love having Brazilian students here. You're always smart. You're collegial. You're fun to be around. You're cooperative. I love students from Brazil. So I hope all of you apply, and I hope at some point I can get you all in.
Thank you so much, Professor. I hope you have a good rest of your day. By the way, what time is it right now in Utah?
It's almost 6 p.m. at night. I know you guys are later. It's what, almost 9 p.m. where you are. So thank you for staying up late to watch. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, it's 4 till 9 here. Well, thank you so much. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon. Have a good one.
Okay, see you, everybody.